Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the chapter 3 for the introduction to criminology subject. Now, we're going to discuss today on why man is the focal interest for the study of criminology. First, here are some of the characteristics of a human being. A human being is complex, has a complex personality, and his actions are quite unpredictable. His behavior, his lifestyle, and other else. And also, man is dynamic in the sense of development because he is able to grow and learn some new things. And also, man is a rational being, which means that man uses his intelligence and can use logic in order to come up with a decision or to as a basis for his action or behavior. Now, man is the focal point of interest because he is the main actor, or there will only be a crime if a man commits it. So we cannot um, focus on other subjects, just like knife. Knife is a tool used for crime. Why cannot we study knife in relation to criminology? Because knife cannot commit crime by itself, but a person can. So that is why man is the focus of the study of criminology. Okay, society. Society is a collection of people living together in a community or the same area. So if there's a group of people living in a certain area, you cannot just call it automatically a society. It's because it can only be called a society if they live harmoniously and if also their goals are quite the same, which is human development. So, for instance, in the military society, in the Philippine society, so it has no limits on how plenty the the characters how plenty the characters or the members in a society. But what's important is that they are living together harmoniously. Now, man being a part of society complicates things because one of the characteristics of man is that man has complex personalities. Now imagine a single person having complex personalities living together with thousands of people also having complex personalities. So it complicates things. It complicates the complicated. Nakakagulo na. Now, how are we going to control those actions? For instance, if a person thinks that it is better to steal because it is much easier to earn money than just to go to work and earn it legally, how are we going to stop that person? Or how are we going to control his actions? And this is only true by law. Now, law is the whole system or set of rules made by the government of a town, state, country, or etc. or a group. A rule made by the government of a town or state or country, etc. It is a binding custom or practice of a community. It is a rule of conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized. So, all the similar thing about the four different definitions is that the law is a rule. These are um, rules that should be followed or a set of rules that should not be committed. So it is decided by a society that these are the rules that we should follow. And man created laws to protect themselves from each other. And also, it's usually by the majority that they decide that these are the laws in order to protect those who are not physically capable of protecting themselves. So, bali yung mga maliliit, mga payatot, in order to protect themselves, so which is presently majority of us are not really mga macho. So, if there are no laws, so who's going to protect us? As kami mga chubby. Okay, laws are a type of social control. It controls the actions to address the occurrences of crimes. So, in order to minimize, if not really eradicate, to minimize, then that's the reason why laws are created. Now, laws are studied and are changed depending on what is needed in order to control the occurrences of crime. This is quite important because as man, being a member of a society, and one of his characteristics is that he is capable of for improvement, for change. Man is dynamic. So, what is needed in a society should also change because man directly affects what the society needs. You will later soon find out why it is like this. Now, figuring out what is needed is done through research. Uh, this figuring out refers to the this one above. Laws are studied and are changed depending on what is needed. Okay. Now, in the study of criminology, there had been attempts to explain the causes of crime, and these are some of the school of thoughts that evolved through time because man evolved from um, less logical to being more logical and more intelligent because of research. Now, the first one in line is the classical school of thought, which says that man is essentially a moral creature with free will to choose between good and evil, and therefore more stress is placed upon the criminal himself. So, man is a creature that knows what is good and evil. So, his action is basically based on his own free will that he decided to do something good or to do something bad. So, bali, decision niya. Alam niya na masama, alam niya na mabuti. So, it's up to the person if he's going to do a crime or a bad deed. Another definition is basically criminal liability. A basic criminal liability is human free will, and the purpose of the penalty is retribution. So, bale, punishment talaga yung purpose ng penalty. It endeavors to establish a mechanical and direct proportion between crime and penalty. So, bale, um, uh, if the crime is heavy, so the penalty should also be heavy. Parang ganon. Okay, crime is a juridical entity and penalty is a means of juridical tutelage. So, of course, penalty is the punishment. Every man is responsible for his acts. The law or the judge should determine the punishment to be attached to a criminal act and should provide a scale of punishment to all persons committing the crime, irrespective of age, sex, color, creed, or circumstances. Okay, now this definition says that A person or a judge will define or will set the penalties. For example, if you're going to steal something, then the punishment is cutting off a finger. If you're going to kill someone, then the punishment is killing you also. Well, that's just an example. So, the person in charge of making the law is the one who provides a scale to the punishments. So, it does not matter kung how much yung dinakaw mo, how many yung pinatay mo, as long as yung law na yung punishment na na niset ng judge is ganon, ganon talaga. Kahit na ang ninakaw mo ay 1 peso lang, pag proven guilty ka, then puputulan ka ng kamay. Pag magnakaw ka ng 1 million, if proven guilty, then puputulan ka pa rin ng isang kamay. So, irrespective sa act mo. And also at the same time, it is also irrespective of the age. So, walang age, walang, ano tawag nito? Hindi considered yung age mo. Kung anong sex meron ka, color, or kahit na pulubi ka or mayaman ka. So, the rule is rule. And these are the people who created this classical school of thought. They are the influencers. These two are philosophers who influenced the government during that time to uh, influence the government to set the punishments because of their ideas that people commit because of their free will. Next is the Neoclassical school of thought. Okay, as the time evolved, as the time furthered, there are new philosophers, and this and they also influence the government. And one idea is in that not all people has moral judgment. That's the main thought in this school of thought, the neoclassical school of thought. Modification of the classical school of thought because children and lunatics cannot calculate pleasure and pain. So, bale, yung mga bata tsaka yung mga baliw, wala silang moral judgment. Wala silang free will. Yun yung pinaka-importante na term, free will. Status of the offenders are being considered. Okay, considered na. Just like yung age, yung sex, tsaka yung mental capability mo. And currently, the neoclassical school of thought has influence even in the present laws. Lastly is the positive and Italian school of thought. It says that man is subdued occasionally by a strange and morbid phenomenon which conditions him to do wrong in spite of a contrary to his volition. So, medyo, if you're going to read it, parang nakakalito. But in layman's term, in simple context, this simply says that napipilitan ang tao na gumawa ng masama dahil sa mga iba't ibang circumstances. Okay? Not because of his own free will. Crime is essentially a social and moral phenomenon, and it cannot be treated and checked by the imposition of punishment. So, yung ano daw, yung crime is a social and moral phenomenon nangyayari daw sa isang it is a happening sa isang society na hindi daw it cannot be cured through punishment. Dapat i-address talaga kung ano yung cause kung bakit nakakagawa yung tao ng krimen. Okay, criminals also commit crime because of their physical structure acquired at birth. Okay, this is also one area that yung tao daw nakaka-commit ng crime dahil sa kanyang inherited physical disabilities, especially when it comes to mental illness or mental disabilities. Kasi, for instance, okay, one good example is kleptomania. Yung tao na mahilig magnakaw kasi hindi niya kontrolado yung urge. Isa itong mental illness. So, the act of stealing, kahit na kleptomania siya, is already a crime. But with this thought, which also has an influence in our current laws, parang medyo it's either nabababa yung penalty or na-exempt or walang penalty if proven in the court na meron ka talagang kleptomania. Now, in this school of thought, it does not only talk about what we call this biological factors that influence a person to commit crime. It it also talks about sociological factors, just like um, kids who grow up in a very violent society. So, bali, i-consider din yun ng mga dito sa School of Thought. So, kung yung country nyo is being influenced by this School of Thought, so basically, yung mga tao na naninirahan din sa mga mahirap na lugar, much lesser ang punishment kasi hindi sila yung may gustong gumawa ng krimen, kundi napilitan dahil sa kanilang circumstances. Yung tulad ng mahirap sila, kaya nanakaw sila, yung gano'n. So, if na-influence ang isang society na gano'n yung reason kung bakit merong crime, then it's possible na meron silang law na na it's either makapababa sa penalty or kung makukulong man sila, they will be trained inside the prison to and for different jobs. So these are not really the basis of law, but rather this school of thoughts on why people commit crimes and how they should be treated are just influences. So it's not necessary that we should follow this because it's like this, it's like that. It depends on the lawmakers, on our legislators, on which influenced them the most. And these are the three who's responsible for the um, positive and Italian school of thought. Now, for the activity, give an example of a law or even just a procedure by the government that is being influenced by the schools of thought, classical, neoclassical, and positive school of thought, and one citation for each school of thought. So, bali, isang example per school of thought. This is easy. Answers are available in the internet, so take advantage of the wide source of knowledge, and you will also be given 1 week to complete it. Good luck!